to the fourth wave of energy incoming on July 10th, 2020. The wave did arrive yesterday on Friday, July 10th, and we've been looking at all the instruments, all the data, last 24 hours, putting it all together. So this is day 6, Saturday, July 11th, 2020, and this is probably one of those videos that in time, as time goes forward, a lot of people are going to want to look at this video, then re-look at it and look at all the information in it. This is going to be part 1 of the information that's in here. So let's begin. So we're looking at our 9-day intensity window, level 4, and the energy shifted, as you can see along our timeline. It shifted from coming in, shifted to an aqua, to a darker one, then to a very deep ocean blue, and then to a red. So this is a kind of like important video that's been given to the world, and especially to America, to really take note of what's happening and what must be done. We do have our 12 watch areas: space weather, jet stream, ring of fire, earthquakes, volcanoes, sea life, economies, Middle East, United Nations, and Anak Krakatau, Cascadia Zone, and the sunspot cycle. And I'm not going to spend too much time on the graphs today, because I want to get to the dream vision, which is, I think people are really going to probably want to replay this video a couple of times once it's available. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting out all this information here for everybody to kind of take advantage of during this particular moment for these for this energy window, if you will. And so let's go through this. A lot of things are happening. Of course, you know that a storm did come called Faye there across the US, and that's because the jet stream altered last couple of days, and it also altered across the Atlantic. Of course, the ring of fire, very important. Various earthquakes. Nothing really massive happened today, Saturday, as the UTC clock ran down. There was some volcanoes popping up, but overall pretty calm, which is good. Sea life, nothing came up about sea life. It is possible that at the end, maybe the last day or two, there might be some type of fish that might beat us out, but we'll see how it goes. Economies, some big news breaking there with China interrelated with California economy, so that's something that people are going to have to keep a very close eye on, you know. Yeah. And Middle East, again, some things breaking there with Syria, Israel, Turkey. Stories popped up. United Nations, again, having to do with trade and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to spend too much time here because of what we need to talk about. Anak Krakatau, the biggest news so far with Anak Krakatau is that it actually erupted on Tuesday, July 7th. So that's why we have it there in the red. That's a big news. Because the Gadia Zone, something to do with school or some centre opening there, so just keep an eye on that. And I suppose I better spend some time on this. Yeah, you can see the wave of kind of hitting there, impacting a little bit on the 7th. You can see the remnants already starting to hit, and that's what comes in kind of waves. You look at that area there. We can see the wobble there. See it clearly, 7-11. We can also see the impact of the wave. See the red circle? That's the wave after coming in. And you can see it. Wow, you can see it. You can see it laid out there, all circled, all the red, the energy flowing in. So that was the arrival of the fourth wave. Very, very big wave. So level 4. So what I'm going to do now. So for everything we did, we put the graph of July 10th, 2020 up there, because it's important, as you can see, the wave. So there we go. So we put that up there as our on our timeline. So I'm going to get into now something very important. So if people haven't watched the tree timeline, that information is still available, and it has a presentation with it, so I highly recommend people to watch it if you have some time. And it kind of breaks down and gives out tons of information about what's happening across the world, across the planet of Terra or Earth right now. And it gives people good ideas of what is actually taking place, right? So, yeah. So part of that timeline is connected to the Jovian transit, which began on July 1st and will end on November 21st, 2020. And within this transit, it's going to become very, very important for all the citizens of the US to really become aware of the plan to take America down. So this is a dream vision data that was shown as the fourth wave came in, and it's obviously called 88 American flag torn. So the beginning of the dream vision was there was an American flag torn in two, and this is a visual. If you want to go look this up, it's called the annuity flag. It happened in June, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. So there's the flag torn, and then there was a thing called IPEC Go that was created, and within that it had the American flag torn. Let's see if we can find it. So here you see the flag is ripped in two, torn if you will. There, right there. You see it there on the screen. Obviously you can't play these videos, but it is what it is. So that was part of it. I was like, wow. So there's a plan to divide the United States in two, to divide the land. And wow, absolutely amazing. And then there was a movie that came out in 2001. It was called Donnie Darko, and people should take some time to watch this movie if they have a chance. It's a very, very crazy movie. It's about a kid here. He starts to sleepwalk, but there's a scene here. See if we can find it. Where there's an actual American flag on his ceiling. Can't see it there, but the scenes jump. You know what? I'm just gonna play it. So he gets up as if like he's in a dream state, and he walks as if like he's sleepwalking, like he's asleep, he's not awake. And see up there on the ceiling, the American flag. Well, why is that important? Well, as the movie goes on, we can show here. I think it's he wakes up, and what does he find out? That a airplane or a propeller or something like that hits the house, see? And where it hit was in the room where he was, and it basically tore the flag in two. So most likely that has something to do with 9/11. And this is a very strange little thing here. So this is a thing called the Addams family. Let's take a look.
Go! It's an American bald eagle.
But aren't they extinct?
They are now.
So aren't they extinct? They are now. So you could say that the American bald eagle represents the United States, its people, its citizen, the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all that great stuff. Basically, what they're trying to tell people is that, well, once we take down the American bald eagle, that country, people are extinct, they're gone, they're wiped out. So I believe that that's what this dream vision is trying to tell the great American people, that you cannot let the flag be torn in two. And this is just something a bit off the cuff here, but there was a song I never really heard it years ago, once or twice, but never really paid much attention to it. But it's called Torn. Within this whole dream vision, what was going on, I think it's just the name Torn had to deal with it, right? And then after that was the movie called, or the song called Titanium. So it's all connected to the 88 American flag torn dream vision, which has to do with that the key thing, and that was bulletproof. So something to do with bulletproof, that the great American patriots, American citizens, they must make their US Constitution and their Bill of Rights bulletproof, where it can't be taken down, it can't be torn apart, like the US flag can't be stood on, kneeled on, spit on, burned. It has to be protected, has to be encircled, because it's under threat right now. And then kind of showing this as well.
Gold medalist and Olympic champion representing the United States of America. Please stand for the national anthem of the United States of America.
As you can see, that was the 2012 Olympics. So then it completely shifted, and then it showed where the Washington Monument was struck by lightning. Just gonna play this. It's a pretty big strike there. Yeah, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to slow this down a little bit. So you see that big, massive light that happened in the sky right there. This is a massive amount of energy, but look where it goes to. Goes to the Washington Monument as a warning, right to the top of the Washington Monument, as a warning to the people of America to protect the US Constitution, the US flag. Do not let it be torn apart. Do not let it be spit on, disrespected, kneeled on, burned, or nothing, because that's a part of what was given through the grace of the Creator to the world and to all the great people in America. And notice the lightning strike hits exactly on the very, very top of the Washington Monument. So this becomes more and more important as this dream vision continues on. And then it showed the Washington Monument standing free, strong. Notice that's encircled with the US flag. Most likely represents the patriots standing and defending the US Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So I'm now going to play some audio here, some very important audio here. So
the aluminum cap of the Washington Monument is 555.5 feet, representing the Constitution of the United States, and it is highly vulnerable to damage from lightning during storms, and that is why it is protected with a metal cage that is plated with gold. And this has symbolic meaning. Aluminum was the very worst choice to put on the top of the Washington Monument, if you're thinking about it in practical terms. But if you are thinking about it in symbolic terms, it is the perfect metal because it is so highly vulnerable, just like our U.S. Constitution is highly vulnerable. Your Christian forefathers symbolically stated with the use of aluminum and with the use of a metal cage that you must encircle and protect your highly vulnerable Constitution from members of the U.S. government during storms. Your fathers symbolically stated with that vulnerable aluminum cap encircled with a metal cage that your Constitution is highly vulnerable during storms. It is highly vulnerable to members of the U.S. government during storms of war, of politics, and of social upheaval, because it would be during such storms that government leaders would naturally and instinctively use those storms as justification for taking away parts of your constitutional rights. The golden cage that protects the aluminum cap is a constant reminder that government leaders are natural and instinctive enemies of the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights because they naturally believe that they must solve crises by assuming dictatorial control at the expense of your Constitution and your Bill of Rights. And those people believe that they are your leaders and they are in supreme positions and masters, and that you are their servants. But this is exactly the opposite of what our forefathers wanted. Your president, your congressmen, your justices, and your military generals are your paid servants in reality, and they are subject to your dismissal at your pleasure. You don't even have to give a reason. Government leaders are not your leaders. You are their leader, and they are subject to your control. You are not subject to their control. You see how government leaders instinctively and naturally get things upside down and in direct opposition to what your forefathers taught you? This next diagram is called the predestination of George Washington and the U.S. Constitution with the Bill of Rights. And your forefathers used the number 5 in the creation of the Washington Monument. And the number 5 is gematria for grace, and it was by the grace of God that the government of the United States was created. But the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights is actually what distinguishes and characterizes the government of the United States. Without the Constitution and Bill of Rights in its original form, the government of the United States is just another government with no special meaning. Points about this diagram are: your Christian forefathers, where there were Masons and or Christians, used the number 5 in order to draw your attention to verses of the Bible that prophesied the creation of the United States of America as God's end-time nation of Israel. In Isaiah 5:5, for example, was written a prophecy of the city of Washington, D.C. as a world headquarters, to which representatives of faraway nations would visit. That verse reads, "Surely you will summon nations you know not, and nations that you do not know will hasten to you, because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with glory." And the preceding verses describe George Washington as the leader of this government. Isaiah 55:3-4 was written as a prophecy of the counterpart of King David, who would be the noble military commander who would bring the end-time nation of Israel into existence. And this verse reads, "I will make an everlasting covenant with you based upon my faithful love promised to David. See, I have made him," or George Washington, "a witness," a religious leader, "to my people, a political leader and a commander-in-chief of my people." Isaiah 55:3-5. I paraphrase that in order to bring it up to date. Your Christian forefathers acknowledged that Jesus Christ was manifest as the body politic of the United States of America. The Washington Monument symbolizes the one body that is both Jesus Christ and George Washington. The Pyramidion atop the Washington Monument sits upon the shoulders of the monument, just as the government of the United States sits upon the shoulders of Jesus Christ and his human counterpart, George Washington. And this was stated in the verse Isaiah 9:6. "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders." The number 5 has gematria, meaning of grace, and your Christian forefathers used it to acknowledge the grace of God in the creation of a successful representative government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people.
So, as you can see, America is very, very important in the great creator's plans, and you could say that the striking of the lightning at the top of the Washington Monument is a guide or a sign to the people of America, the great citizens, the patriots, to encircle your U.S. Constitution, your Bill of Rights, to defend the land of God. And then it was brought to this. Let's take a listen.
Hi, I'm Jenny Taylor Martin, a director here at Edgar Cayce's ARE. Today I have the privilege of speaking with John Van Auken, who's an expert on Cayce and on ancient mysteries, and he's here to talk about his new book, 2038, The Great Pyramid Timeline Prophecy. Hi, John. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
When did you discover the Great Pyramid Timeline Prophecy? And can you give us an introduction to what it's about?
Believe it or not, it was over 40 years ago. I was in my early 20s roaming through the fantastic Edgar Cayce Library upstairs in this Cayce Center in Virginia Beach, and I came across David Davidson's book on the Pyramid Prophecy Timeline. And I started looking through it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was expressing a fact that the ancient Egyptians knew the entire story of the children of God, or what the Egyptians called the godlings, descending out of heaven, going through many cycles through the earth, and ascending back out of here. The entire story. It was mind-boggling to me. For several years, I was a mess, trying to think, how could anyone know the entire story? Is it that destined? Is it that fated? Is it known at some level that I'm not aware of? And of course, I was living normal life where tomorrow was uncertain. And here I was reading this, and visually, Davidson was showing you the visuals. I have in the book here the amazing layout of the Great Pyramid and the descent into matter and the ascent back into spirit. And I was shocked. It was amazing. And then over a period of many years and 35 tours of Egypt, I started to discover more and more about the details and about many others beyond Davidson who actually knew about this. And that's when I really started to collect the information that eventually became the book.
Why do you think the prophecy was created using the Great Pyramid?
That's a good question. Of all the pyramids around the planet, and they're everywhere around the planet, even in China, the Great Pyramid is unique and a phenomenal archaeological achievement. And it is the only remaining wonder of the world of the original ancient 7 wonders of the world. It is built to last and carved in such a way that archaeologists from the 1500s, the 1600s, the 17 and 1800s were amazed as they thoroughly examined it at how, given the theory of evolution, ancient people could build something that we could hardly build today. The features, the layout, the weight of some of the stones, the arrangement, the beautiful way that the stones have been cut and put together were so unique that it was evident to everybody this was intentionally done for a purpose bigger than just building a tomb.
How did the Egyptian Book of the Dead coincide with this prophecy?
It's a fascinating concept that these archaeologists in the 1800s discovered that the magnificent Egyptian Book of the Dead and all these colorful papyruses had chapters and passages that appeared to be referring to chambers and pathways in the Great Pyramid. And they were giving them names that were more of a metaphysical nature and relating them to stages on the journey of our soul growth. And I was stunned, and I just started gathering the material and started studying the Egyptian Book of the Dead and pulling out those little areas where obviously they were talking about something called the light, and the archaeologists noticed that the glyph over the entrance, the original entrance, not the one we use as tourists, to the Great Pyramid is the horizon of heaven, which is often called the light. And so there was the correlation between the light and the light. One was physical and the other was in words and ideas and metaphysical.
What needs to happen for us to find the holorecords that Cayce talked about, and could it be related to this prophecy in any way?
Yes, it was amazing when I started to read all of the Edgar Casey discourses on ancient Egypt. And so in the book, I had to write this chapter about the reincarnation of an ancient Egyptian high priest, Ra-Ta, which, as you might know from Howard Church's great little book, The Lives of Edgar Casey, was one of his major incarnations. And so here he was giving all this information as a reincarnated ancient Egyptian. And the information was amazing. And he actually was point blank asked, what about Davidson's material? And he said, in the most correct. And that's when I really started to get into it, because if he was affirming that most of this story is correct, then I needed to know and see the correlation myself and present it to others. In the Casey story, he adds this strange element about Atlantean stone records, that the Atlanteans knew it was the end of their culture and their continent. And so they were sending off a collection of 32 stone tablets to 3 locations on the planet to hide them, until the children of God, or as the Egyptians called us, the godlings of the great God, were ready to rediscover them and learn the truth of the story. Edgar said the opening of these hiding places would only occur when humankind was ready. And so I have been to these locations, and I can see why he's correct on that. You can be standing right on top of it and not able to get to it. At some point in the future, something's going to happen. Either nature will move something, or humankind will discover or fall into something, and we will see the tablets. And on the tablets are recorded this fantastic story of the descent into matter and the ascent back into spirit.
Do you think that'll happen in 2038?
Yeah, that's the key. The date 2038 is because Edgar Casey's readings say that when the prophecy reaches the apex of above the king's chamber, and you use the pyramid inch to measure, the dates correlate to the inches, and that date is 2038. He says the prophecy's over, and the fifth root race begins, the new age begins, and lots of changes occur. However, he does say the changes are gradual. There are body changes. The body will become lighter. It will have 12 chakras instead of 7, which we're all so familiar with. Your mind will be more fourth dimensional, which we're moving into because a lot of us have really started to appreciate and quickly see metaphor. And metaphor is a fourth dimensional perception.
How do you think things will be different in 2038?
I think that era is going to be mind expanding, physically enlivening for the soul inhabiting the body, and perhaps more of a collective planet where we all feel like we're one family.
John, I love your book, and it is just beautifully illustrated. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
You're welcome.
So that's pretty amazing. That connects the pyramid to a prophecy timeline that is counting down. Will it be exactly the year 2038? Maybe. Or is there a deeper code taking place? This is all connected to the land of America, to the creator of all, and the fact that there does seem to be a plan to rip the land of America in half, and it's been symbolized by the flag, and the fact that the capstone on top of the Washington Monument is in the shape of a pyramid, represents the Great Pyramid. So all these things are interwoven, and then the dream vision continued forward. Let's take a listen. Okay, great. Let's take a listen now. Very, very important here as we go through this.
So what we're trying to do is, once we can calculate to the Babylonian captivity in Nebuchadnezzar was 586 BC, and we know everything else. So if we can find that, we can find everything else. All right, so let's do it. Okay, we start with Adam, and we have here Enoch's translated, we have Noah's birth, we have the flood, and we get to the year Abraham is born. Year Abraham is born from Adam is 1946. Okay, that's 2142 BC. Okay, and again, the Giza pyramid agrees with that. They have it as 2141, but that's just within a year. That's amazing. The pyramid of Giza and the timetable I'm giving you agree on the same thing. Okay, so once we know that, God made a covenant with Abraham and when he was 75 years old. So from creation, from Adam, that's year 2021. That's a significant year. I'm not going to get into it now. If you know if you know the king's timetable, you know what that means. But I'm just going to keep going here. Then what you do is you turn to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. And then Jacob goes into Egypt when he's 130 years old. This is our critical date. Because from that, God's covenant with Abraham, and I have all these scriptures here too. Abraham will be in bondage, a stranger in Egypt for 400 years. So once you know the year Jacob went into Egypt, you count 400 years. That brings you to the Exodus. Okay? Once you have the Exodus, then you know that Solomon's temple is 480 years from the Exodus. Now what happened is Solomon reigned 4 years. In the fourth year, he started to build a temple. All right? So count 480 years. Then you subtract 4 years. Okay? And so on the BC, this temple is built in 972 BC. Okay, now, this is the major thing. The reason you can do all of this is because of Ezekiel chapter 4. Now, in Ezekiel chapter 4, Ezekiel lies on one side 390 days. And he lies on the other side 40 days. And he says, the 40 days are for Judah, and these are 40 years. The 390 days are for Israel for 390 years. Now, the King David reigned 40 years. So that relates to King David. So you don't count those 40 years, but then you count the 30 years. Because what happened is when Solomon went apostate, God divided the kingdom into the 10 northern tribes, Israel, and the Judah. Okay? Now, what happened, what you do is you don't count those 40 years. Because you're counting 390 years because the kingdom was divided. You're counting those 390 years for Israel. Now, when you count those 390 years, that's going to bring you to the Babylonian captivity. Amazing, okay? Now, we're going to see the significance. Sometimes what you do is you add the 390 and the 40, which is 430, okay? And you can see that here. This is also referenced in Exodus and Galatians. But the key to this whole thing I'm showing you is these 390 years. You count that from when Solomon built the temple, brings you Babylonian captivity. Once you know that, you got 586 BC, which we know in the historical record. Bam. Now we have all the BC AD correct years. Okay. So then we have Cyrus's decree, which is 70 years after the Babylonian captivity. 586 minus 70 is 516 BC. Which is 3,572 years from Adam. Okay, we got the Maccabean Revolt, which we know is 168 BC. And then we come to Christ, which is 4,088 years from Adam. Okay, then we have Jerusalem is destroyed. You can see the 70s here. We got Cyrus' decree 70 AD. And we're going to also see where it's significant in our day. Okay, so then what we have is, let's go over, that's the Giza pyramid I showed you, okay? This is the timetable I've showed you. Now, here, all these years, if you look up these years, I showed you the 400. I showed you the 430. Now, also in Acts 13:20, it talks about 450 years, okay? I showed you the 480. Now, if you add 430 plus 70, you can add that here from David to Cyrus's decree is 500 years, okay? It's also significant in our day. Okay, so we saw the 400 years, we saw the 430. But now what we do is if you add those years and we start at the Protestant Reformation. Again, the Protestant Reformation is when Martin Luther put the 95 things on the board of the Catholic Church, right? We even saw that in the Giza Pyramid, 1521, but we have the accurate date of 1517. Now, if we add those years to 1517, we come to significant dates. All these significant dates come within a certain time period, the end of October, early December. Amazing. Okay, let's talk about the first one. 1517 plus 400 is 1917. All right, 1917, Balfour Declaration. That was on November 2nd, 1917. Okay, sorry for the lighting here, guys. But the best thing to do is, you can't see this, please get this file. Okay, let's keep going. 1517 plus 430, 1947. All right, now, what's significant then? Again, we go over the prophecy I just explained to you, but we have the UN resolution to provide a land for the Jewish state. This was on November, is it November 8th? No, this is November, sorry for the typo, I'll fix this, guys. I believe it's November 29th, 1947, is the UN resolution to provide for a Jewish state. It wasn't even the land of Israel yet, okay? But that's a significant date, and then we know they are formed in the next year, okay? So that's 430 years from the Protestant Reformation, 1947. 1947, we'll see, is our critical year, critical date. Okay, let's keep going. Then we add 450 from 1517, 1967. Now, you know 1967, you have the Six-Day War. There was also a UN resolution to give Jerusalem back to Jordan. This was on November 22nd, 1967. You may not be familiar with this, but again, all these come in this time period. November, okay? Then let's go 1517 plus 480 years. Again, we know Solomon built the temple, but we have a future fulfillment of 1997. What is that? 1997 is the fig tree generation, guys. The 144,000 must be born on 1997 or older. Okay? Why? Because the priest must be 20 years or older. So they're the fig tree generation. The significance of that year is that's the year that they must be born. When you see the fig tree generation, all these things must come to pass. Okay? So they're born. They're here on the earth. All right? Then we come to 1517 plus 500. Now again, the 500 is 430 plus 70. Okay? And that's our present year, 2017. Okay, and this is what we're saying, 390, Israel, plus 40, Judah, plus 70. Okay, just like it happened in the past, it's also happened in the future. And what we have is 500 years from Martin Luther brings us to the Cyrus Decree. This is what I just told you. Please watch the other video, Cyrus Decree. You know, Trump is actually doing this. When he changed the U.S. embassy, it's now going to change everything in Jerusalem for them to build a temple. All right, so we got Cyrus' decree on December 5th, 2017. On December 6th was Trump changing the U.S. embassy. All right, it was also, as we mentioned, 70 A.D. Rome destroys the second temple. So this is why 70 years. So 70 years from 1947 brings us to 2017 in Cyrus's decree. We already went over that. So guys, there we have it. Please get this. I'm going to try and get this in the light the best I can. One more time as we conclude here. There we go. Okay, so again, just to conclude, we have the years of creation. We have the AD BC, the precise years. The other thing I want to mention is in the Strongs, I asked the Lord for confirmations on all this. I got several things. The Giza Pyramid, another one was the year. So the present year from creation is 6,106. Now the Jews have now 5,778. Okay, but it's 6,106. Now, the interesting thing about this number is if you look up the Strong's Concordance in the Hebrew, this number means bone, or it means, in the King James uses this word self-same, or same day, okay? Now, if you look up this word, actually all of these critical people and dates come up. You have Adam, you have Noah, you have the flood, you have Abraham being born, you have Jacob, you have the Exodus, you have King David. The first temple isn't there, but the Babylonian captivity and Nebuchadnezzar. All these events are related to either the word bone or self-same day. Amazing. So to me, that's just confirmation that all of this is accurate. It is, in fact, the year 6106. Okay, we see that through the Giza pyramid, and guys, we have all these critical years. Guys, we're living in a schedule. This thing is a schedule. It's a timetable. We go from the Protestant Reformation when Martin Luther went against Mystery Babylon, and he said, you guys are the Antichrist, man. You're wicked. So, guys, thanks for watching. I want to do just a quick video on this, and please get these notes. Please get the file I showed you, and then the other things here. I'll also have links in the description field for some of the videos and things I've mentioned here. So guys, thanks for watching. Watch and pray they be counted worthy, escape all these things in Yeshua's name. Amen.
So that kind of ends the part 1. So it's shown that during the 4th wave of energy, which is obviously interconnected with the 9 waves of energy, that something cosmic, majestic is going on. And as the Washington Monument was struck by lightning, it was a warning sign to the great people of America, to the American citizen, the American patriot, that some type of nefarious dark hand is trying to tear America in two, symbolized with the US flag, and that it must be stopped because it will not bring the graces from the Creator. So that's the end of part 1, and the notes from this that the individual is talking about is reference points. I might be able to actually put it interconnect it with the presentation for everybody. So what I did was, so if you click on this, you can actually look at the notes now talked about in the audio snippet there. And if you click on this, it'll open up to the Great Pyramid, the shafts going up and down, and the passages and chambers of the Great Pyramid. So, yeah. So then the dream vision shifted to a kind of fig, leaves, tree, whatever you would like to say, but shifted then. And so it's shown that this time frame is a very big time frame for America, the world, everything to do with the solar system. And then it showed the light over the Great Pyramid of Egypt, of Giza, the ancient land of Chem. So very important. The timeline, the time clock is counting down. So, and then it showed most likely interconnected to the event that will take place, that will shift many things. So, and that concluded the part 1. Part 2 goes a little bit deeper into different things, so that will also be coming along here. So this concludes the 4-wave energy incoming on July 10, 2020, with an energy intensity window of 9 days from July 6, 2020 to July 14, 2020. This is day 6, Saturday, July 11th, 2020.